Welcome to Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And today we're going to be talking about a personal favorite for both of us from 2002, 20-year anniversary coming up, Road to Perdition, directed by Sam Mendes. I think you can make a case for this being his best movie. He's got some bangers, American Beauty, movie we've talked about on the show, of course, 1917 from just a few years ago. Skyfall, this guy kicks ass. Revolutionary Road. He's got some stuff in his bag, I'd say, but Road to Perdition is fucking epic. My favorite Tom Hanks performance of all time. You got Paul Newman playing Daniel Craig's dad. Like, come on, what great casting! I can't wait to talk about this movie, man. We've been talking about this between both of us for literally years, how we want to tackle this movie. I think it feels right to do it. Can't believe it's 20 years old because it looks fucking gorgeous. The score is impeccable. One of the best scores I can think of, and one of my favorites from Thomas Newman. This is a big one for us. It may not be the biggest movie we've done, but it feels big for both of us because we love it.
Yeah, this is a personal favorite that I've adored for years, that I've always felt was incredibly underrated and underseen, which is crazy because this is like everyone involved at some of their best work. Sam Mendes, I was talking to somebody the other day that Sam Mendes is like one of the most talented filmmakers working, and not a lot of people know his name. It's wild. Like, he should be considered one of the greats, and I don't understand why he isn't. I mean, everything he's done has been solid gold. And Road to Perdition, it might be his masterpiece. I think you're right. It's just a perfect vengeance story about, humanity and loss of innocence and just so many great themes. I can't wait to dig into this thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. And it was up for 6 Oscars at the 75th Academy Awards. It won 1 for best cinematography, but we've got plenty to talk about. And 2002 is just a really cool year for movies. When you look back at the ceremony, there's some good stuff there, So we'll do that towards the end of the show. We'll talk about the 75th Academy Awards. I think we both agree that Road to Perdition should have been up for Best Picture, so we'll kind of talk about that later on. Talk about how Tom Hanks got robbed of a nomination. One of the legends, one of the greatest movie stars of all time, and he's just putting in a shift in this movie. There's really nothing else in his filmography that's like it.
Yeah.
I didn't know, when I saw this, for the first time, I was probably in middle school, like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. And I remember just thinking, this is Tom, you're so used to Forrest Gump, or like some of his comedy stuff. Big comes to mind, The Burbs comes to mind, stuff like that, where he's just being Tom. He's just being like a lovable guy. But this is a serious ass movie, and he's carrying it the whole way, and he's rocking that mustache, man. He's the hat, the fedora, and the mustache just works.
Oh, dude, the 30s gangster look is fucking clean. Like, I love that look. You can't bring it back today, or you look like a douchebag. But back then, like, they knew what they were doing. They had style.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, this is 1931. The movie takes place in 1 year, so the Great Depression era is so fascinating on screen. And with this, a pretty straightforward story, you're never really second guessing what's going on, or you're never really out of the loop as an audience member, which I actually really respect when it comes to gangster, mob, mafia, whatever movies of this kind of subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't like when they're confusing. I rather them just be plain and simple. You took something from me, now I'm going to take something from you. And I love the little plot lines that come into play, especially with Jude Law, McGuire. I love that plot line, and it comes back into into fold at the end. So good. This movie kicks ass. But Thomas Newman's probably my favorite aspect of it. Just the score is crazy good. But another favorite of mine from this movie would be the cinematography. Would be how good it looks, and how they capture this era, this kind of like film noir atmosphere, but with kind of a new look, obviously. I feel like this movie could have come out last year, and I would believe that. I think it looks that good.
Yeah, it does. It does. In the way a film is shot, we've learned throughout our kind of journey with this show, is paramount. And the cinematographer ultimately is responsible for the way a film looks. And if you got to have a guy behind the camera who understands what this film's trying to say, what it's trying to be. And yeah, I feel like, what was his name? Conrad Hall.
Yeah.
He killed it. He really killed it. This film looks incredible. And I know that this was a posthumous win for him. Hell of a way to go out. Seriously, like maybe his best work.
Yeah. And saying that's a huge deal because this guy, I mean, this is one of the best guys to ever do it behind the camera. He died in January of 2003, and the Oscars that year were March of 2003. So unfortunately, he didn't get to see that win, but he's okay. He won 2 others. He won for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and he won for American Beauty. So and this guy's Oscar resume ranges from 1965 to 2002, almost 40 years. He's got some amazing stuff in there. Some movies that I can't wait to see. I've always wanted to see In Cold Blood from 1967. I actually really like A Civil Action from 1998. I've always wanted to see Tequila Sunrise from 1988. So he's got stuff that I'm just interested in. But I mean, my favorite of those is Road to Perdition. It's like it just looks incredible, and he won. He won in American Beauty in 1999. Obviously that movie destroyed that ceremony and won Best Picture as well. But Road to Perdition is really special because he went out, with a huge fucking swing, and this movie has his touch on it. Yeah, it's a Sam Mendes film, but you have got to look at Conrad L. Hall's name as being a part of that, the way this movie looks and how it's aged so well.
I love that he got to work with Paul Newman in 2 very specific points in his career. In Butch Cassidy and Road to Perdition. That's very intriguing and really cool. I like that. I would love the stories they must have had.
Oh, geez. Can you imagine? It'd be nice to be in the room with guys like that. Paul Newman. Yeah, Paul Newman is nominated in Road to Perdition. He's just like such a superstar and had that in his DNA for so long. He's just one of the coolest guys to ever do it. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about with this movie, and we're gonna do that. But I do want to shout out cinematography as a category as being, in my opinion, just as important as best director, just as important as best screenplay or best actor, whatever. I think it's one of the most important categories when it comes to the Oscars and when it comes to just movie making and how something looks. Cameras are, after all, the most important thing. Without cameras, it's nothing. It's just people fucking moving around like idiots. So I want to talk with you about our top 5 favorite best cinematography wins from the 21st century. So that would be 22 movies altogether. I'll read them off just so we kind of know what the pool is, so the listeners know what the pool is. The first one would be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 2000. That's Peter Powell. That's a gorgeous film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Andrew Lesnie, gorgeous. Road to Perdition, Conrad Hall. You got Master and Commander, Russell Boyd. Master Commander is a wickedly underrated movie. The Aviator, 2004. That's Robert Richardson. Memoirs of a Geisha, Dion Beebe won that for 2005. Pan's Labyrinth, Guillermo Navarro, 2006, another gorgeous movie. There Will Be Blood, Robert Elswit. Robert Elswit, also the cinematographer for Michael Clayton that year. So decent work. Slumdog Millionaire. I think that's a movie that's gotten kind of forgotten these days. Anthony Dodd Mantle won for that. You got Avatar in 2009, Moreau Flore. It's not my favorite movie, but it's revolutionary and destroyed the box office. So you're going to have to, give it some respect. Inception in 2010, Wally Pfister. Incredible stuff. Robert Richardson, again, working with your guy, Martin Scorsese, Hugo and The Aviator. not too bad. Life of Pi, Claudio Miranda, 2012. And here's 3 in a row from Emmanuel Lubezki: Gravity, Birdman, and The Revenant. The guy is a complete freak and has an argument for being the greatest to ever do it. La La Land, 2016, Linus Sandgren. It's got some good stuff going. Mr. Roger Deakins, the GOAT. Blade Runner 2049. That's somehow, some way, his first win. But he has, I think, 18 nominations altogether. 2018, Roma, Alfonso Cuarón. Obviously, this is his baby. This is his masterpiece in his eyes. He directed, edited, and shot the whole movie. Pretty cool. Roger Deakins again, 2019 for 1917, another Sam Mendes film that is just breathtaking. 2020's Mank, Eric Messerschmidt, unbelievable stuff. Black and white film, black and white photography that is really in a class of its own, and I think Mank is already underrated. And then just this last year, Dune won. Greg Fraser, who's obviously a guy who's changing the game, and he's a name to look out for. So these guys matter a whole lot to us, and that is the pool of movies we'll be choosing from for our top 5s. I'll let you take it away with your number 5.
Yeah, I am expecting rampant overlap, but
yeah, we'll see.
My number 5 is Mank, Eric Messerschmidt.
Okay, I had to cut that one, but god damn it, I love it.
It is beautiful. Capturing the vibe and the feel of 1940 Hollywood is, crucial to appreciating this film, appreciating the people who created Citizen Kane. And I just think, following Gary Oldman through this kind of like rabbit hole adventure of Herman Mankiewicz, rebellious like way through Hollywood. I thought this looked incredible. It felt incredible. And it was such a great movie. So I figured this was a good place to start.
Yeah, love that movie. Just, I think, so misunderstood. And I don't know what people wanted it to do for them. I guess they're expecting Zodiac, but that's not going to happen. You can only do that one time in a man's career. I think Mank is really good, and a lot of filmmakers would be lucky to have that in their arsenal. Eric Messerschmidt is like 30 something years old, and look out for that guy. He's a genius, and anyone who can work with Fincher and kind of push the envelope and challenge him like Eric did, that's a special mind. And it's rare that you come by someone like that. So yeah, I love Mank. Is one I had to cut. I wanted to have only one black and white movie, so you can guess what mine is later on in the list. My number 5 though is Road to Perdition. Obviously we will be talking about this movie a lot, so I'll kind of save most of my thoughts for later. But Jesus Christ, man, the rain in this movie, the natural lighting, the nighttime stuff is so fucking good in this movie, and I forgot how good it was when I was watching it last night. I've always loved this movie because it's kind of a movie that me and one of my older brothers, my brother Jeremy, he showed it to me when I was, again, sometime in middle school, and he was in high school, and he showed it to me. And it was one of those kind of, none of my friends had even heard of this movie type thing. And I felt cool, and you know what? I still feel cool because I love this movie. I'll go to bat for it any day. And I think it's a damn shame if you haven't seen it. Right now it's on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Paramount Plus. So there's no excuse to not see this movie. It is a classic, and it's a 9 out of 10 kind of movie. It's so close to being like perfect in my eyes. So yeah, we'll talk about that a lot later.
Yeah, I share all of your sentiments. Road to Perdition is my number 4.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Like you said, the rain sequences, the nighttime sequences, this film looks impeccable. You can tell that a sure and steady hand did this. Ain't no squirrely amateur, to quote.
Yeah.
Bill. But it is just you really feel the weight of it all through the cinematography, the way this film is filmed. You feel everybody's sins coming back to haunt them. And there are no heroes. It's just who's the worst villain. There's a line where it's like, we're all murderers here. It's perfect. It's so amazing. And it starts with the look of, Depression era Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was audibly telling myself, like, God, this is beautiful.
Yeah, me too.
Amazing.
Yeah, fucking A. I was up late watching it, and just, I had all the lights off type deal, turn it up as loud as I could without my daughter waking up. And I just got locked in, and God, the 1930 Chicago is one of the most fascinating settings, let alone, and then you have it filmed by Conrad Hall. Hats off to him. Rest in peace. That guy's the man. My number 4 is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Boy, oh boy. I mean, what's crazy about this one, I believe Two Towers was nominated, but Return of the King was not. Of course, Two Towers lost to Road to Perdition. I'm okay with that. But Fellowship, I can see why it just blew so many people away at the time, just because it's like, Jesus, like, just look at the Shire, and look how gorgeous the production design is, of course, and the costumes and all of that. Look how pretty everything is, and how well everything is introduced to us is because of how easy the camera moves and how seamless it is from Andrew Lesnie. This guy, Peter Jackson, yeah, I mean, you're a hero, but Andrew Lesnie is a guy you gotta thank for giving us this amazing trilogy and how perfect it looks. God, I love these movies so much. It would feel wrong to leave it out, because it is the only winner of the 3 for cinematography. Fellowship destroyed that ceremony, man, and rightly so. It is my favorite movie of the trilogy. I love origin stories that nail it, that aren't boring. That first hour is great when we're just kind of getting started. We're getting to know everybody. You have those really cool moments of Sam and Frodo leaving the Shire, and it's like, Jesus, this is gorgeous. It makes you want to go to New Zealand, and that's crazy.
Amazingly, Lord of the Rings didn't make my cut.
I had a feeling. There's a lot of good movies here, man.
Well, I've talked. I feel like I've spotlighted the Lord of the Rings so many times, and
we both have. Yeah,
I wanted to give some other stuff a chance to shine, but obviously, Fellowship is very dear to my heart, and the cinematography for that film is incredible. And I'm glad you had it, so we do have an opportunity to throw it a bone here.
Just shout it out. Yeah. What a great way to start. In my opinion, cut out the Hobbit stuff. My favorite trilogy of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nothing for me is topping Back to the Future because there is no prequel, there is no spin-off. It's just and it's perfect.
Yeah, lucky you. I got to think about Desolation of Smog and shit like that. Every time I think of Lord of the Rings, I'm like, I don't want to think about that.
That's great. My number 3 is one that, if it's not on your list, I will be very surprised. There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah.
2 weeks in a row, There Will Be Blood made my top 5.
Yeah, I could find a way to fit There Will Be Blood into any top 5. I don't care what it is. Top 5 2005 movies. Well, There Will Be Blood was.
I'm sure somebody was thinking about it in 2005.
Yeah, it was shot partially in 2005. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's that's coming.
This film looks amazing. It feels so much like a classic Western mixed with like a horror movie of today. I every time I watch that movie, I'm more enamored by the way it looks. It's very much about warring faiths, and I love that. But just like the landscape of just nothingness, but knowing what Daniel sees in that nothingness, like you can see what he sees almost in the way that the film's framed. It's beautiful. And Westerns are maybe the king of beautiful cinematography. And you can kind of, I guess, There Will Be Blood can be considered a Western, more kind of like a neo-Western.
Yeah.
Depends on who you're talking to, really. I don't know. I have weird classifications with Westerns. but it looks amazing. It enhances Daniel Day-Lewis's performance. It enhances Paul Dano's performance. It enhances this beautiful storytelling, Paul Thomas Anderson's direction. It's the perfect enhancer for that film.
Yeah. Yeah, God, yeah. I'll be talking about that very soon. My number 3 is Roma in 2018. God, I love this movie. And Alfonso Cuarón, this guy, it's fucking stupid what he's able to do. The stuff he's put together. Admittedly, if I don't know what my favorite Cuarón movie is. I don't know. It's like so hard. But the one that's most impressive to me is Children of Men, and that was nominated, but it lost. So I would have that here. That's probably like my favorite. The way that movie shot in 2006 is just fucking nuts. And it's another one like Road to Perdition. If it came out last year, like I would believe it. But I wanted to include this Cuarón masterpiece because partially because he's doing everything, and because filming a movie in black and white, it can work for sure these days, and I think sometimes it is kind of like it can be looked at as like a pretentious decision depending on how you do it. But man, when it hits, it hits. When it slaps, it slaps. And this is probably my favorite black and white movie from the past decade. I don't think there's anything else that's as pretty as it. I think Mank is a little bit more daring, and he's using those dark colors probably better than Roma is, but I think Roma is using the lighter colors better, the grays and the whites. You just feel like you're in the middle of a masterpiece while watching Roma, and I think there's a reason it immediately got selected for Criterion. I think there's a reason for that, and I think there's a reason for Cuarón finally winning Best Director. This is a movie that he controlled, and he dominated this movie, and you can feel it. You can feel a career coming together. This guy who did, Y Tu Mamá También, and then got this huge break with doing a Harry Potter movie and Children of Men and Gravity. God, what a freak, just a complete freak of nature. And I can't wait to see what else he does, as he's one of the best we have. And hats off to him for making Roma, for making a movie as bleak as it is at times, and then as hopeful as it is at the end. Just gorgeous stuff, and one that I will be rewatching forever for sure.
I think that the use of black and white in that film, I think, is specifically reinforcing the minimalistic approach that Cuarón is taking, of the story of a maid. And it just works. I didn't think I was going to like that movie, because back in 2018, I was still pretty like, on certain things. And I ended up watching that movie just because I was like, well, it's up for Best Picture, I should watch it. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. Cuarón is such a multi-talented guy. And I love that we got a Renaissance man working. We don't have a lot of those. And yeah, he's incredibly talented. And I'm glad that I think he's got 2 director wins, and like 1 for cinematography, 1 for editing or something. Like, he just kept racking them up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Good for him.
Yeah, he's got the coolest like Oscar closet. Like, dude, you've done everything.
I'm waiting for him to get nominated for Best Actor or some shit the next 5 years.
Yeah, and Roma, I'm a fucking dumb white guy from Texas. Like, for you, tapping into your Latino side, I think is really, really important. I think it's important for people who aren't from those places, but I think it's very important for you to tap into that side of your DNA, of your culture. And this is one of the best Mexico City movies I've ever seen, where, like, holy shit, 1970s Mexico City, what a fascinating setting, and with a guy at the helm who knows what he's talking about. So I love that about Roma.
Yeah, Hispanic heritage is, I'm especially these days, considering, I'm about to embark on my thesis, which is very much about Hispanic representation in film. Films like Roma are incredibly important.
Yeah.
And they really make me feel connected to a side of my of my heritage I haven't really explored lately. And I felt exactly the same thing with Road to Perdition. It tapped into my Irish heritage. And I'm
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
this is fucking awesome. So it's cool to have those moments of like, I feel something for this for a reason I didn't expect. Like those are really cool moments.
Yeah, being aware of that is, to me, one of the coolest parts of watching movies, or embracing art, is knowing how much it means to the person making it. And it's very apparent when you're watching Roma. You're like, holy shit, this guy cares a lot about this story. So yeah, great. I cannot wait to do this movie one day on this show. I'm not chomping at the bit to do a 2018 Best Picture showdown. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not. But there's some movies I love from that group. I'm a big fan of A Star Is Born. I'm a big fan of Vice. We have done actually that year more than any other year. We've done Black Panther, If Beale Street Could Talk, Minding the Gap. We just did First Reformed. So we've tackled that year a bunch, but we've avoided Green Book. Avoided the Best Picture showdown. But one day we will do it, and Roma, I'm sure, will be at the top of my list.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we could always do like a Best Director showdown or something. Based around Christ. Roma. Like that's always an option. But I get why you're hesitant to go into that, because Green Book's going to be an interesting episode when we finally do that. We're going to have a lot to unpack that we might not necessarily want to talk about, but we're going to.
Yeah, and giving awards out to Green Book, I'm like, man, I'd rather do Vice. There's just so much more. But yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's why I think it's important to not only look at the winner, but look at the ceremony as a whole. There's always going to be golden nuggets throughout, and I think we're both really keen on finding those. Road to Perdition is one of those for 2002. It's one of those gems that, you know what, Chicago may have won, but Road to Perdition is the movie you should really watch.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the best movies, the ones that were nominated but didn't claim the same kind of thunder as the winners. And I think reclaiming those in some capacity is important and fun, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a blast. Well, all right, we're already to your number 2.
Yeah, so obviously there's no way I think either of us are going to be able to do this top 5 without going into Lubeski. And really it was a selection of like, well, which one which of his 3 wins is going to make it into our top 5s. 3 in a row. God damn. Has that ever happened ever to anybody else in the Oscars?
No, he's in this category. I mean, I don't think in any category, but this one for sure. He's the only one to do that.
That's beautiful.
And he has 8 nominations, so there's other stuff, like Sleepy Hollow is one of his nominations. The Tree of Life and Children of Men. Like, this guy's a fucking freak.
Yeah, he had his own wing at the Academy Museum. Like, very few people had their own section, but he had one. That was amazing. I went with The Revenant.
Me too. That's my number 2. Let's go.
This film is remarkable.
Stupid.
Leo's incredible. Tom Hardy's incredible. But the way this film looks, I mean, natural lighting, like, that is so fucking hard to do. I mean, the only other like example I can think of is Kubrick with Barry Lyndon. And I imagine that was not an easy shoot.
Yeah.
But to capture, the vibe of like 1750s Ohio Valley. I mean, what the fuck? This movie looked amazing. It looked like I was watching a fucking documentary filmed at the time. And you can just see it, just the landscapes, the colors, the clouds. Like, Lubeski is a goddamn genius. And pair him with Iñárritu and you get magic. So this film looks amazing. Weirdly, like, nobody really kept talking about this one. After Leo won his Oscar, it was like, all right, now pack it up.
Yeah. What a shame. I think I love Leo to death. I love that guy. He's he's one of the best movie stars we've ever had. But that win overshadowed the film itself, and what a damn shame. One of my favorite theater experiences by far. when you sit down for this movie and it starts, you're like, okay, this is going to be serious as fuck. And they're not playing around here. There's not going to be one single bit of comedy in this movie. When you see that first spear fly at Leo's, these are basically, frontiermen who are trying to trade fur, and you're like, okay, this movie happened before, but not like this. When that first spear flies at them from these, Native American characters who are flying at them and trying to kill them, you're immediately like, holy shit, who's behind the camera? Like that was my first thought. It was one of those formative experiences as a movie fan, because I started thinking that way of someone is filming this. Someone knows how to film this. And then when you learn about Lubeski, and like you said, his photography is all basically in all of his movies is natural. It's natural lighting, and it's playing with the elements of nature. And this movie, it's like 10 degrees outside while they're making this movie, and there's great pictures of Lubeski with his camera, and he's got like a tarp over his camera because it's snowing and it's raining and it's coming at him, and he's like an athlete. As a him and Deakins to me are the most athletic, ballsy guys who are like, let's get dirty, let's get our hands dirty and make a movie. Just because this is a camera doesn't mean we have to treat it like it's a baby. Let's fucking get it dirty. Let's get this thing. Let's make it useful. And I love that about Lubeski. I love that so much. And yeah, you could go with Gravity. Looks great. You could go with Birdman. But The Revenant is a game changer, like total game changer to me. Maybe his most impressive thing he's ever done. That wing that you brought up earlier at the Oscar Museum was basically Revenant. It was basically a Revenant wing. I mean, the photos that they had of these different Native Americans that were in the movie, it is like, what the fuck? Like, how can someone just do art so seamlessly? And I just remember being in that room and being like, this guy's greatness, and people should know his name. He's not on the same level as Deakins, where people just know who that is right away and they know what movies they've done, but he should be. He fucking should be, he's my favorite guy to do it. And The Revenant is the movie that I would point out to, where it's like, look at all of his best, all the best parts of his craft are at the forefront while watching The Revenant. That movie is fucking incredible. Now, I don't rewatch it all the time because it's like 2.5 hours, but I do watch clips of it a lot just to remind myself of how gorgeous this art form is that we love. And yeah, and you have Alejandro directing. Jesus, what a cool team. For them to go back to back, Birdman and The Revenant is special.
Yeah, for sure. And that was around the time when I first started noticing the intricacy and appreciation of like extended long takes.
Yeah.
Which has become something that I like. You want to win me over quickly, give me a long, extended, like uninterrupted take that just keeps going.
Yeah.
And The Revenant really, like, not just the take, but like what is in that take is so complex and unpredictable that getting that shot seems impossible, but they got it. And it looks amazing. That is nothing but praise to me. And
yeah, love this movie. Love The Revenant. It's one of the first Blu-rays I bought when I was like, whatever, I guess 20 when this movie came out. I was like, I have to have this on Blu-ray. And that was before I really like took my like collection seriously. So it was like one of the first movies where I was like, I need to have this. No, that's a cool feeling to have. From then on, just taking it even more seriously, just kind of trying to collect movies and have things that I appreciate and love. And The Revenant, I'll always own that movie, man. I would love to do it on the show just to keep going into this stuff, because clearly we both respect it a lot.
Yeah. Apart from Mank, which is a Netflix original, I own all 5 of my picks.
Yeah, I don't own Roma, but I should. I don't know why I don't. I need to get the Criterion edition of that, because at first I was like, oh shit, it's a Netflix movie. I don't know if they're gonna like put it out on DVD. But that one and Marriage Story both got Criterion selected. So I want both of those.
It is weird what like certain Netflix movies get a DVD release, certain ones don't. It's so strange, like what gets selected and how that works. Really, it's like it's got to be an amazing movie to get Criterion selected.
Yeah,
that's the best bet.
I think The Irishman as well is Criterion. Yeah, that's probably it. I don't think any other Netflix movies. Maybe like Beast of No Nation. That movie was like a big deal.
That did get selected. Yeah, I remember seeing that at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. So yeah, it has to be pretty good. Yeah, a pretty big deal.
Yeah, makes sense. Number one should come as no surprise. Roger Deakins is the GOAT. I mean, what are you going to do? And this film takes what I love about cinematography and amplifies it to a degree I didn't think was possible. And that is 1917.
Yeah. Sam Mendes, baby.
Yeah, taking it back all the way to Mendes. This movie is one of the most beautiful, intricate films I've ever watched. And I can't believe this was accomplished. And, you know, the whole movie looks like one take, which is amazing. And it's so like loaded with, you know, soldiers and battles and planes and just shit you could not do in one take. But Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins did it. And they made this beautiful humanistic war movie about loss and, you know, what we're fighting for. And it's amazing. I love this movie. I can't believe, I mean, Parasite's amazing, but this was so close. Like for me, it was a coin toss between these two movies. Like I love Parasite. I love 1917. 2019, man. God, what a year.
Yeah. For me, it's Once Upon a Time. That was my favorite. Yeah.
Even that, like, just there was so much competition that year. Like, I remember just being so excited the whole time. And yeah, that movie rocked my world. It was the first one I wrote down. Like, of course, nothing's beaten 1917 in the cinematography department.
Yeah.
But yeah, goddamn.
Yeah, that's a theater experience that if you know, you know. Because you really only need to see it once to be like, wow, wow. You know, that's a guy. Those are two guys who clearly know what they're doing. Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins. They're at the tippy top of their game. Sam Mendes playing like from the heart, making a movie that was connected to his family, and Roger Deakins is the guy for it. You know, what's great about Deakins is this like second leg he's had in his career of working with all kinds of different directors. You know, because he's so attached to the Coens for so long, and a lot of his nominations are from Coen Brothers movies. See him, you know, work with Denis Villeneuve and Sam Mendes. You know, like that's really cool of him to do, to kind of put his touch on this, you know, different wave of filmmakers. And it just shows how damn talented he is. Yeah, 1917 was hard to leave off, man, of my list. It's like, it's unfair what that movie's doing. There are breaks in it. If you rewatch it at home, especially when you're like on the couch and you're like, okay, you can find the breaks in it where you're like, you guys stopped. But when you watch in the theater and you're in that mode of like, oh my God, everything's so big, you can't tell. And you're not thinking about that. You're just enjoying a movie, and you're in the middle of war with these guys. It's Jesus, this movie's good.
Well, that's what I love most about it, is it's not a gimmick. Like, it could have just been like, you know, watch this uninterrupted take of a war movie. And that's great. But at its core, like, you've got these great characters and this awesome story. And that's what keeps you engaged. It's like, it's that combination of like, just, you know, an amazing look and an amazing story that just won me over immediately.
Yeah.
And there's moments of, you know, really sad moments that bring you to tears in this film. You know, people learning their brothers are dead. And it's just, it reminds you just how chaotic World War I was, and how nobody really knew what the fuck they were there for. Like the you know, the motive behind that war is so muddy that you're going to get a different answer from anybody you ask. Like World War II is very obvious. Like, yeah, Nazis were bad. Let's fuck them up. World War I was like, well, this country was in league with this country, which was in league with that country, and that country had a treaty with these people. It made no fucking sense, and millions of people died. So I think this movie really like reinforces the fact that like we're just there to kill. There was no real reason to be there. But that's the history buff in me coming out. I love this movie.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. George McKay, man.
Oh my God.
That's a performance for the ages.
I love how the movie bait and switches you thinking like, no, Dean Charles Chapman is the guy we're going to be following, and this guy's just along for the ride. And then it fucking swaps on you, and you're like, oh no, he's our hero. Like the guy who doesn't even want to be here is the guy who's going to finish this mission. It's like, shit, now we're in a different movie. Like, geez, just thinking about it, like, I want to watch it right now.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. I really, all of these movies, I'm like, man, these are so pretty. I want to see them again. I want to watch them, rewatch them right now. That's kind of why we do these lists, is to kind of, it's like a personal exercise of why do you continue watching this stuff? It's like, well, because of this, because of this craft. Yeah, that's a great pick. My number one is obviously There Will Be Blood, Robert Elswit. Robert Elswit is the guy who filmed almost all of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, and he's one talented motherfucker, that's for sure. Aside from that, he's done a lot of movies I just really, really dig. He's so good at making movies feel like movies and just kind of have that magic. He did The Town, he did Nightcrawler, he did Michael Clayton. Stuff that I just personally really, really dig. He also did King Richard last year, and I thought that movie was really pretty and had no business like looking as good as it did. He's the fucking man. But There Will Be Blood is his lone win. He was nominated for Good Night and Good Luck as well, just a couple years prior. Another great movie. And There Will Be Blood it just makes sense that he would have a lone win for that. But I do think he's been overlooked like time and time again. And PTA and him being together, because PTA is a very, very hands-on camera guy. So to work with him must be a pain in the ass at times, when you're like, I know what I'm doing. Let me figure this out. Clearly they have some kind of bond that makes sense and makes just movie magic. And There Will Be Blood is, to me, kind of the signature movie of the 2000s, where I hear all the arguments for anything from that decade. That's just, but that is the movie that looks the best and is a movie that 100 years from now people will still be watching. I can't say that about everything from the 2000s, but I think There Will Be Blood is a timeless like piece of work that belongs in a museum. It's that good. It looks that good, has that good of performances, has that good of writing. It is pretty cut and dry with what it's trying to tell you about, 1900s, 20th century United States. We talked a lot about this last week, combining religion with the American dream and like what it takes, like whose dick you have to suck, and like where do you have to go to really get on top. And not only is it There Will Be Blood, but it's also just a feat. And the way it's shot, that first 15 minutes where there's no dialogue is like such a fuck you to other people making movies. It's like, fuck you. You usually have to have a hook at the beginning of movies. You got to do something with music. You got to do this. You got to do that. But this movie is just like, look at us. Look how beautiful this is. And these guys are just digging for oil, like these guys are mining, and you can't take your eyes off the screen. And then finally we have, we hear Dunya Plainview, and you're like, holy shit, we have a film.
You give me a determined Daniel Day-Lewis with a pickaxe and a dark mine shaft of like descending into hell. I'm in. Like, give me 2.5 hours. I'm in.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned, films that will be watched, 100 years from now, and There Will Be Blood being one of those films. I just picked up the Criterion Collection edition of The Kid. And that film is 101 years old.
And it just still pristine.
that is an amazing achievement to make a film that lasts that long. I know I won't see it unless I live to be like 110, and I don't really want to do that. But it'll be amazing to see what we're holding on to when we're like 90. What the films that have lasted, the film, because obviously we're still going to be talking about movies. Maybe not. We'll be doing some like robot space podcast on the moon or some shit. But yeah, it'll be it'll be neat to see what makes it that far. And I do think There Will Be Blood will be one of the films that's going to last till the end of time.
If only for look at the greatest performer to ever live doing maybe the best work of his entire life, like that's worth it. Like we still watch, Burt Lancaster in the 50s because it's like, well, because it's Burt Lancaster and it's the 50s, or Humphrey Bogart in the 40s, because it's Humphrey Bogart in the 40s, like why not watch it? And I think that's what's going to happen with Daniel Day-Lewis in the 90s and 2000s. You're like, it's Daniel fucking Day-Lewis, like doing his thing. And that's like enough for people to just keep watching forever. So I can't wait till it's, 2070 and people are like, is There Will Be Blood the greatest movie of all time? Like I'm going to be here for that conversation. I swear to God, I have to be here for that conversation. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson's always going to pop up in these top fives just because all of his movies are like my favorites. That's just the way it fucking rolls with me. But I genuinely think that movie is so gorgeous, and you combine it with Johnny Greenwood's score, and it's like just Jesus Christ. All of these guys are kind of at the top of their game, kind of in their prime, and that's such a cool thing to have. Whereas Road to Perdition, you kind of have a mixture. You have a mixture of things going on. You have Tom Hanks, who's like, I'm Tom Hanks. I don't need this. I don't need anything. I'm Tom Hanks. But you have Sam Mendes, who very much needs this. You need a follow-up to American Beauty. You need to show that you have this. You have Paul Newman, who's like, I don't need to prove shit. Like, I'm Paul Newman. But you also have Daniel Craig, who has something to prove. Jude Law, who has something to prove. And you have Conrad Hall, who's like, I don't need to show you guys anything. I've been doing this for 60 years. I'm the man. So it's really cool how a movie can kind of take what's the word? A movie like Road to Perdition can kind of use those to its advantage. Use something like that where you have a mixture of people proving themselves, but also veterans. Yeah, and that's really cool.
Like a changing of the guard. I never really considered Road to Perdition to be that kind of movie, but it really is. It's a changing of the guard. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. You have kind of a cast and crew that are like all there for different reasons, and it's like a puzzle. It just fits. So I'm not surprised we both had it in our top five. It's again this episode has been a long time coming, which might be surprising for some people, but we just both connect on this movie, and occasionally that'll happen. Of course, movies like The Godfather is like, well, that's easy. Everybody connects on that.
Yeah.
But Road to Perdition is one of those kind of random ones. It made a lot of money. It made like 150 million at the box office because movies like this used to do really well and used to be able to come out in theaters and people gave a shit.
Yeah.
But movies like this don't really exist anymore. It's hard to like do this now. The only way to do this is if like you're Tom Cruise and you're making Top Gun, or you're a Disney or a Marvel movie, and that's just the way it is right now because of streamers.
It's funny. Like, I didn't expect this to be a recurring theme this week, but we literally just went into all of that on Beyond the Bad this past Friday on The Pacifier, because that was one of those movies, kind of a mid-tier movie that made a lot of money back then, but would be considered a failure these days because of what we've had to reevaluate as a success. And interesting that we're seeing that in the drama as well. Cool. Oh, yeah. I love that there's something that connected Beyond the Bad and Oscar Sunday this week. That's really cool.
These shows have more in common than we know. It's great. Well, let's recap real quick, and then we'll talk more about Road to Perdition. So my number 5's Road to Perdition. Number 4, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Number 3, Roma. Number 2, The Revenant. And number 1, There Will Be Blood.
Nice. Beautiful. Mine is number 5, Mank. Number 4, Road to Perdition. Number 3, There Will Be Blood. Number 2, The Revenant. And number 1, 1917.
Beautiful. I love it. So we both had Road to Perdition and The Revenant.
And There Will Be Blood.
And There Would Be Blood. Yes, we had 3. Jesus Christ. And one of the ones that I had, I thought for sure you'd have is Lord of the Rings, and I'm sure you thought I'd have Mank. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the toughest one to cut?
Lord of the Rings by far.
Okay. Okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I have a lot of loyalty to that trilogy, and I adore it, and I've just it's one of those comfort food series for me. So having to kind of put Fellowship aside and kind of just accept in my for myself that these are not better films, but better work in terms of cinematography that I think adds more to the conversation. That was a tough conversation to have with myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I had a tough time leaving Mank out, leaving 1917 out, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is definitely a kind of dark horse movie.
I was pretty sure you were going to have Blade Runner 2049.
I mean, fuck, I love that movie. I like that's a conversation. Now, when we did special effects, I had that my top, and same with Life of Pi. Yeah. I think I respect that front of those movies. Like Blade Runner looks fucking amazing, but I think it has a lot to do with technology. I mean, no, Deakins is the man. I'm not, no, there's no degrading him.
Yeah.
But I do think 1917 is a more impressive feat from a cinematography standpoint.
See, I wonder that, like a film like Avatar, for example, is that really cinematography, or is that just one giant visual effect? What's the line there?
Okay, see, I agree with you there. I think The Hurt Locker looks way better than Avatar, and is a movie that has serious substance within the lens. Avatar is if you watch Avatar, it's amazing what they did with that movie, but it's a lot of green screen, and a lot of Zoe Saldana wearing a black jumpsuit with all these little balls all over it to make her blue. Yeah. So I don't know.
If that to me, if a film like Avatar is considered, best cinematography, then we should be allowed to nominate animated films for that award. Because that's basically the same thing. It's all made on a computer. So how is that, a handheld camera?
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. I agree. I think that's a fascinating debate to have. Avatar is the one I look at, and Inception too. There's sometimes in Inception I'm like, wait a minute, this is buildings folding over themselves. Yeah, it looks cool, but that doesn't really mean the camera did all that work.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I had the same thoughts about this past winter, Dune. Is it visual effects or is it cinematography? Where do we, where does one begin and the other ends? I don't know.
Maybe that's something we'll keep learning about. I'm always down to just keep figuring out what these jobs, these occupations within a movie mean and what they entail. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe Greg Fraser was doing more with Dune than we realize, and I would love to figure that out. That's kind of the glory of it. But we both clearly like movies that look really pretty, like to use natural lighting, like to really hone in on characters and story rather than kind of blow you away with this is movie making, this is CGI, or this is computer, this is trying to fool you. There Will Be Blood's not really trying to fool you. It's just look how cool this looks, look how cool that fire looks.
Yeah, I love a good blockbuster, but honestly, at the end of the day, I want to be invested. I want a good story. I want something that looks and feels real. And most, I find that more in drama than I do any other genre. That's something I'm learning about myself the more I do these shows. It's interesting.
Yeah. I've definitely learned that too, where, horror is my favorite genre when it hits. Mm-hmm. It's like rap for me. It's there are some rap albums that I'm obsessed with, but there are so many rap albums that I will pass on all day, every day. There's a lot of horror movies that I'm just no, I don't, maybe I don't get it, and that's fine. But when it hits, it fucking hits, and it feels good. It's invigorating. But drama, I find mostly is I'm gonna find something good out of this because these actors are fucking going for it. I love subtlety, and most of my favorite directors are playing within that genre. So like that's their sandbox. And yeah, I've definitely learned a lot about myself by just watching more and more and more stuff, especially old stuff. I'm addicted to 1970s American movie making, so a lot of those movies within that decade they're pretty serious. They're pretty self-serious and they're trying to tell a very human story, and I love that.
Yeah, and Road to Perdition very much I felt drew influence from like 30s and 40s gangster films.
Oh yeah,
you felt I felt White Heat. I felt The Public Enemy. Like there was a lot in here that I just like now I could fully appreciate, and that was just great.
Yeah, like the McGuire Michael scene at the diner is like, this is Alfred Hitchcock. Like this is fucking like we both know what's going on, but we're gonna fucking act like we don't, but we both know. And it's scary character, guys who are capable of murdering, of just destroying people, and they're going toe to toe inside of a diner with all these people. It's like it's fucking thrilling just watching these two guys talk about their bullshit occupations. They're just making stuff up. And it's beautiful. You could have it become a shootout, or you could have it become Tom Hanks is like, I'm gonna go to the restroom and I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna stab your tires and I'm gonna get on my way. Like that's I'm like totally here for all that stuff. It is definitely playing with old film noir. And it's 1931. They're playing with the times that the story is in. So let's talk about Road to Perdition, man. Let's give some awards to it. Let's fucking dig in and have some fun here. We have our Tarantino award for best quote. Great screenplay, underrated. The Ennio Morricone award, take your pick. Thomas Newman is just putting on a clinic in this movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman award, best performance. For me it was pretty clear, but there are some choices. And then the Roger Deakins award for the best scene of the movie. So I'll let you take it away with your Tarantino whenever you're ready.
All of this was so hard. This movie is so gorgeous. It's such an amazing story, great character. So I really had to think this one through. And my best line comes from Frank Nitti, played by Stanley Tucci.
God,
yes,
what a great character.
Of course he's here. Like,
yeah.
And this is from the scene where Michael Sullivan is requesting, like, let me kill Connor Rooney, and all's forgotten. And Frank Nitti's like, well, here's the deal. He says, all these years you've been living under the protection of people who care about you. And those same people are protecting you now, including me. So if you go ahead with this, if you open that door, you're walking through it alone. And all that loyalty and all that trust will no longer exist for you. And Mike, you won't make it. Not on your own and not with a little boy. Just having it all laid out. Like, look, if you go through with this, like it's open season. Like you will die. Your son will die. You only your standing is only there because we allow it. Just having that like realization of like, I am meaningless to this organization. Like as of now, because I'm a threat. Like you're nothing. To find out you're nothing. And Jesus Christ, the way that's laid out is so perfect.
Yeah. God, that's a great scene. Stanley Tucci is the fucking man. He pops up in the most random roles in great movies. Yep. And he always knocks it out of the park. Like he is one of the ultimate those guys, that guy. He is at the top of that list of, I don't think every movie fan knows who he is right up. If you hear Stanley Tucci, they're like, what's he in? You're like, everything, but like if you're really into this stuff, Stanley Tucci by name, because he always brings the heat, and he is amazing in those short scenes that he's in. And then towards the end of the movie, I love when he's connected to Al Capone. It's such a neat little like plot line that like we get teased by, because this is Sullivan's story, but there are like multiple gangsters at play here, and it's awesome because 1930s Chicago is like the mecca of American gangsters.
Well, I recognized the name and I looked him up, and Frank Nitti actually was an American crime boss in Chicago.
Yeah,
he was Al Capone's first cousin and bodyguard. He was the like in charge of the money of the Chicago crime scene. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, and he's a scary looking fucker when you like look him up on online. You know, Stanley Tucci doesn't really look like him, but Tucci just makes it his own. He makes it his own little character. It's great.
He's the Tooch. He adds so much greatness to movie. And the whole time with their interactions, I just kept thinking, in 2 years they're going to do The Terminal.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to be back together, and just I love that. Yeah, wonderful,
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
My Tarantino comes from a quote that you slightly mentioned earlier. You're talking about Conrad Hall's ability to just make us feel like we're in the thick of something really dark and really scary, but also like a fucking roller coaster thrill ride. And it's when we have the genius scene of Michael, of Tom Hanks, going to John Rooney, to Paul Newman at mass at church. And he just has his head down, right? This is such a beautiful shot. Yeah. And he's like, you know, we need to talk. And he's like, you're a smart man, Michael. And, you know, they go downstairs. They're like in a basement. And they kind of just start going at it about, you know, he's like, I've been shot. Michael's been hit by by Jude Law's character. And like that's a really great scene between those characters. The accountant is there and he's fucking hilarious. I think his name's Rance, right? In the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he recovers, Michael recovers, and he's like, I still have a job to do. I still need to, you know, avenge my wife and my kid. And so he goes up there and he's like, hey, I found out this information about your son. He's been embezzling money. And Paul Newman's like, John Rooney's like, I know this, you know, I know this has been happening. This dialogue leads to like easily my favorite bit of dialogue in the whole film. And it's Michael says, he murdered Annie and Peter. And John Rooney says, there are only murderers in this room, Michael. Open your eyes. This is the life we chose, the life we lead. And there is only one guarantee. None of us will see heaven. And Michael Sullivan says, Michael could, which is his son. And John Rooney says, then do everything that you can to see that happens. Oh, man. Whew. You know, great bit of foreshadowing. Gives me chills because it's Paul Newman. You're like, oh my God, it's Paul Newman. This is arguably, you know, the coolest guy who's ever stepped in front of a camera, talking to Tom Hanks, who's a guy who's grown up, has his own family, a guy that he adopted off the streets because he was struggling and he took him in as his own. It all comes to this moment, you know, and they don't talk again until Michael gets his, you know, and he fucking plows over all those guys in the streets. So, you know, I'll be talking about that later. I love that scene. I almost picked it as my Deacons, the scene between them two when they're just screaming at each other, and how serious that moment is of like, I'm like, are you fucking serious? You're going to let your son, Connor, do this shit to you? And he's like, I know he's been doing it and he's probably going to get his. You're probably going to get yours and I'm probably going to get mine, you know? And it's such a fucking gangster moment. Like it's one of my favorite bits from any gangster movie of all time.
I love those moments in gangster movies where they're like, this is who we are.
Yeah,
like,
we're fucked.
Have no, you know, misconceptions. We're monsters murdering people. And, you know, get with the program, understand that. I love those moments. And this one has such a great one. I've just, you know, he knows he's fucked. John Rooney knows there's no way out here. He knows it's either his fuck up son or the son he wished he had. And he's got to go with blood. Like you get it. But also you're like, dude, why would you back this asshole? It's so, oh man, it's great. And Paul Newman, the indecisiveness, the conflict in him, the whole goddamn movie is so perfect. He plays that so well. He's goddamn vet. You know, Paul Newman's like, you know, let me show you how it's done to everybody on this goddamn set. And I'm sure they all would just like, I'm sure people showed up on their days off to just watch him work.
I sure as hell would, man.
Yeah.
God, the guy's a freak in this movie. So good. That's my favorite bit, but I do. There's a few times where I laugh in Road to Perdition where I'm like, it's not intentional, you know. It's just like one of those. Oh my God! It's when Frank Nitti is talking to Connor and he's like, Connor's like, I can look after myself. And he's like, no, you can't. That is the point. You're a big baby who doesn't know his thumb from his dick.
I love like Connor's reaction to that. Like, you're being short-sighted. I'm going to be in charge one day and I'm going to remember this. Like,
yeah.
And Nitty's like he scoffs, but he also doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he's like, God damn it, he's right. Yeah, I'm the heir to the throne, bitch. Yeah, I am his son. Yeah, God, this movie is great. Daniel Craig too. This is the movie I think where it's like, we have an actor in our hands. Like,
yeah, he was nobody, and then he landed this, and then then it was Layer Cake, and then it was James Bond. I mean, talk about a rise to stardom super fucking fast. I mean, within 4 years.
He's amazing. One of the biggest names on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah. Now he's a superstar. I would love to hear. I would love to hear. I don't think anybody ever asks him about Road to Perdition. I bet he only gets James Bond questions. I would love to ask about this movie.
This would be the first thing I'd be like, what is it like to play Paul Newman's son? Like,
yeah. Jesus. Yeah. I mean, that is, nobody at the time and Paul Newman. Like, how do you I mean, him, he was doing probably like bit parts of the BBC. He gets cast in this movie and now he's acting with Paul Newman. How do you do that? Like, how do you just get in that mental space of like one of the greatest actors of all time is beating the shit out of me right now?
Yeah.
Jesus. Crazy.
Yeah. Incredible stuff.
Runner-up dialogue line I had is during Michael's final confrontation with John, and John's just accepting it, and he says, "I'm glad it's you."
Yeah. Oh,
I nearly had that, but I'm just like, fuck.
Oh, Jesus! that scene.
Oh man,
fucking love this movie. It's so good. I love the dialogue between Kieran Hines, what's the guy's name he plays? McGovern?
Finn McGovern.
Yeah. I love that scene when he gets killed. And I love the way it's shot from the boy's perspective. You can see the feet and that's such a beautifully shot scene. And that's some great stuff happening there too. Shit. That's when we see how stupid Connor is and how noble Michael is. And he's like, I have to fix this.
Yeah. I do love Finn McGovern's the speech at the wake where he starts getting out of line and Michael is like, okay, leads a round of applause to get him the fuck out of there before he says something he's going to regret. I was like, oh, that was perfect. Kieran Hines, what a great character actor who just feels like he's always been there and is only now really starting to get his due.
Yeah, unfortunately that happens. That happens to a lot of guys who put in work for decades and then something happens. And I guess for him, it was Belfast, I guess, is the one where people are like, oh, this guy's actually a pretty lovely performer. And you're like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, it was a mixture of Belfast and then his involvement in the Snyder Cut as Steppenwolf, I think, brought him to, brought that side of pop culture to his doorstep. So yeah, I think it was a kind of a blend there.
That's a good call. Yeah, that's definitely the one. When you're in a big movie like that's popular, and you're kind of a character actor who just does his job, that definitely will help you out. So yeah, good call. Ennio Morricone. This is the toughest one for me. Good luck.
This might look. I love the Shawshank Redemption to death, but I do think Road to Perdition is Thomas Newman's masterpiece. This score is so haunting, but so powerful and beautiful. I knew exactly what I was going to pick. It's one of my favorite bits of score of all time. It's called Road to Chicago.
God damn it. I had that written down until later. It's so great.
It's amazing. It's just, it's right after they're deciding we can't, this is not our home anymore. This is just an empty house or empty building. I love that line.
Yeah.
And they're driving to Chicago and this beautiful piano just crescends into, the arrival of Chicago, this larger than life animal that they're just in now. And Newman, what an amazing composer. Every time when they're walking through the crowd and the camera's focused just on them.
Yeah.
It's just, I was in awe.
Yeah.
I love those moments where it's just everything's working so beautifully and you can't help but be mesmerized.
Yeah.
Those are the best moments watching movies. And Yeah, I've never seen Frida. I don't know how good Elliot Goldenthal did with that score, but as far as I am concerned, Thomas Newman was fucking robbed.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. God, I love this score. Listening to it all day and just kind of going back and forth on stuff. I had the whole time I watched it, basically I had Road to Chicago as my choice. But then, today when I was listening to it, and this will happen a lot when I'm doing these awards, I take them so seriously. I was like, let me make sure, because I think sometimes with music, if you're not watching the movie and you hear a piece of score from a movie and it like immediately like breaks you down, it's like, wow, that's powerful, because now images are playing in your head of the movie. And there's the bit when we meet McGuire. It's called Meet McGuire. That's when we see Jude Law for the first time, and Thomas Newman brings back his strings from like the American Beauty sound score, and it's so creepy and so weird. This is the most out of left field scene of the movie where you're like, the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like he's taking pleasure in this, and we see that pretty large fellow with a knife in his chest, and McGuire's just like in the zone. You're like, what's wrong with this guy? And it's one of my favorite things about this movie is that there are moments of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and not what the fuck is going on where I'm confused about the plot, but like, these people are monsters, and I love when that happens in a movie like this, where we do have these kind of, trench coat wearing, just like super mega stars like Tom Hanks and Paul Newman. It's cool to see Jude Law playing this fucking weirdo, this like sociopath oddball who's just in the mix. He's now the guy who's hunting Michael. He's the guy who's trusted to hunt him, and all comes back around to Frank Nitti. And I love that bit of score. It's like 2 minutes. It's very quick, but it's creepy as hell. And comes shortly after the Road to Chicago, because that's when they get to Chicago, the movie starts rolling and starts rolling fast. It's like 30 or 40 minutes in, and you're like, oh my God, buckle up. The rest of the movie is a fucking ride. So I had to choose that because I can't get Jude Law's weird ass smile out of my face, with that weird hat he's wearing, and his teeth are kind of nasty and his eyes are bugging out. And that's the best stuff, is when you can immediately envision what the movie did to you when you're not even watching it. Like, that's how powerful Thomas Newman is. Man, that's so hard. You brought up Shawshank earlier, and it's like, fuck, we did that movie not that long ago on this show, and I remember both of us just like, we're like about to start crying talking about that score. I feel the same way about Road to Perdition. It's like, this is what the art form is for. This is like what music is for, is to capture images and apply emotion to it through music, is one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. And Road to Perdition does it beautifully.
I love John Williams. I love Hans Zimmer, Alan Silvestri. Like, these guys are great. But Thomas Newman has some like direct line into my heart. I don't know how he does it, but his scores are so personal, and they get me, man, every time. I love him to death. McGuire is such I love that in this movie we've got a fucking photographer serial killer, basically, who's after Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And I love when he hands the money to the cop and he's just like, 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. The cop's like, whatever you want. Just what a creepy, I shoot the dead. Like, just creepy shit, man. I love. And then he comes back at the end, like his face all fucked up from the glass, and he just looks like a monster.
Yeah. Evil.
What a evil creepy character. Bitch. Well done, Jude Law.
Yeah, he really is an X factor in this movie. If that doesn't work, if that performance doesn't work, then this movie could go off the rails and be like, what was that all about? But it works really well. Meet McGuire is my favorite.
I also do love the the title track, Road to Perdition.
Yeah.
We hear it a lot towards the end of the movie, just kind of like peaceful, you know, all is well music that just like wraps it up very well. I love that score. This music is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's like stunning. Yeah, definitely. If you have Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, you know, go just go listen to this. You know, it's a heavy score. There's a lot of score in the movie, so there's a lot, but it is so worth it just to give it a whirl.
I found the CD at Goodwill, and I was like, I'm taking
so
this.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a few. You know, like I have John Bryan's Magnolia score on CD. There's a few that I have, just because it's awesome. You know, I have There Will Be Blood. I have Johnny Greenwood's There Will Be Blood on CD because it's like every now and again in the car, like driving on the highway at night, is like, yeah, let's listen to some movie scores. You know, and that's like one of my favorite things to do when I'm driving alone. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I get it. I totally get it.
So good. I know you do. Nobody else does. Philip Seymour Hoffman Award. Best performance of the movie.
Dude, I struggled with this so hard. Everyone in this movie is so incredible. Really tapping into their dark side. And I love that. Especially Tom Hanks. Like, he's usually, you know, playing such wholesome characters. To see him play a mob hitman is so refreshing. But ultimately, I gave this to Paul Newman.
Wow. Okay. I can't argue with that. He is the man. I went Hanks. This is my favorite Hanks role of all time. Playing against type, like you said, and doing it. There are a few times I'll say with Paul Newman, there's never once are you questioning John Rooney. You're like, he is John Rooney. There are a couple times where you're like, that's fucking Forrest Gump. Like, I can't do this. Like, it's Tom fucking Hanks. It's like he's one of the biggest stars to ever live. Like, this is the guy who starred in rom-coms in the 90s. Like what's going on? There's something about that can be distracting, but also so impressive from Tom. So Michael Sullivan's one of my favorite gangsters of all time on screen. So I got to go him, but Paul Newman is definitely second place.
You want to see Tom Hanks play a real piece of shit? Go see Elvis.
Oh yeah. I plan on it, seeing that soon. Yeah, I've heard the accent's good. I've heard his piece of shittery is good.
Oh, just such a despicable human being. But I get why you pick Hanks. I love Hanks in this. He's his career is so intriguing. Just starting out as, like, you know, bosom buddies and fucking volunteers in the Money Pit, becoming like the 90s rom-com guy, and then Forrest Gump, and then just becoming like the go-to guy for serious drama. I love that he's just had this roller coaster of a career. It's like, you know, there's something there for everybody. It's weird. It's great.
Oh yeah. He's done everything you can, you know. And the one thing about him is he's like, I'm going to be the lead though. You know, I'm Tom. I'm going to lead the movie, whether I'm being really silly or I'm in the Green Mile, you know. I will lead this movie and carry it as best as I can. And it seems like the coolest guy to work with, you know. And for me, I will always have that attachment to Woody as a character. You know, Tom Hanks, that's like my heart is that movie as a child. So he just has a special place in a lot of our hearts. I think that's what's so special about him, is he's tapped into something that we all look for when we're watching movies. You know, there are people who appreciate Thomas Newman and understand what he's doing. Everybody understands what Tom Hanks is doing, you know, as a movie fan. So he's one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, Hanks is one of those perfect hybrids of movie star and character actor that doesn't come around very often. But he's lights out. And I've heard, like, really humble and really nice, which is nice. Yeah,
just seems like a great dude, like a good family man, good guy to work with, and a guy who understands that, you know, it feels like he's tapped into something like that he understands about life, and that's really, really cool. So hats off to him. He's amazing in this. Paul Newman's great. Stanley Tucci is great. Daniel Craig is great.
Well, the reason I went with Newman, and I talked about it a little earlier, is the conflict of John Rooney and how he is this, you know, he's a monster. He's a mob boss. He's ordering people to die. but also he loves Michael like a son, and he did not want this to happen, but he can't do anything about Connor because he's blood. And there's just this conflict of like, what do I do here? I'm going to lose somebody no matter what I do. What the hell do I do? And you just feel that the whole movie until he gets gunned down. And even then he's like, yeah, I get it. Like, you had no choice. It's such a great performance. And just seeing Tom Hanks and Paul Newman go head to head is a fucking unreal, man. It's a clinic. It's amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that we look, what a treat that we get to have that.
It feels like that. It's like, look what I get to see.
Yeah, it does. And it's crazy that people don't like recognize that today. It feels like people our age have no idea how cool that is to see two legends going head to head. Yeah. Tom and Paul, both great. Both should have been up. Paul was, Tom wasn't. Fucking shame. The Roger Deakins Award. You could go. There's a few ways you could go here. There's about 5 like endlessly rewatchable scenes in this movie. So what'd you go with?
It's the death of John Rooney.
Yeah. The rain. Just
what an amazing sequence. Just, no sound of the bullets, just watching people fall in the rain from the, gun from the shadows. John just not even his back turned, but just knowing exactly who it is and why this is happening, not even attempting to run, just accepting it. And then just, Sullivan walking out of the rain, gun, Tommy gun, beautiful. Like, I love the noise a Tommy gun makes. And
me too. Yeah.
Just Rooney accepting it, but also the tears in Sullivan's eyes. Like, he's killing his father, essentially. And you just feel the pain and the weight and the guilt and the rage. And it's such an incredible scene. Oh, fuck, man.
Yeah. That's exactly what I chose. He's like cloaked in darkness, Michael, and not seeing him is such a great decision. The decision, like you said, with the bullets, to not be making any noise until it comes to the final kill there. And that bleeds into him killing Connor. And that's a scene like for like film school, when he shoots him and the door opens and it has a mirror on it, and you see Daniel Craig in the tub, just blood on the wall. He's just gone, and
no words, nothing. I love all the gangsters just moving out of the way for Sullivan. Like, everyone who was supposed to protect him is just like, not my fight.
Yeah, it's over now. Yeah.
Jesus. And then Nitty just being like, here's the hotel, here's the room. After this, it's done. Like, oh, man.
Yeah, room 1423. Yeah, this is it. I have your word that this is it. Yeah. It's such a brilliant scene. That like 10-minute stretch is some of the best shit I've ever seen in a gangster flick. So had to choose it. My favorite component is the rain. Like, you can't forget that. And watching him walk away with the gun is like, God, man, what? Like, this is so badass.
Well, also, I this might be reading into it a bit much, but I don't know. But Irish Catholicism is so strong in these people. Catholicism is so strong in the Irish, and the rain made it feel like almost like God is weeping for John Rooney. And
okay.
Yeah,
there's some truth to that, because I was reading an article. I can't quote it completely because it was really long, and I admittedly I should have read the whole thing last night before I went to bed, but I didn't because I had to go to bed. And it was about how water is used in this movie. Obviously with the rain, and then at the end when he's looking at the ocean. And there's always symbolism within the rain. And apparently those were all Conrad Hall's ideas. So the cinematographer was like playing into what you're talking about. And that's why he's like one of the guys, at the tippy top of his craft. Is he's not just filming. He's like, I have ideas and I can make this movie elevate to another level for people who want to rewatch it and like catch things over and over. That's like really important to me and you as fans. I think we both appreciate stuff like that. So now there's truth to that. The Catholicism stuff that you're talking about. So good find.
That's awesome. Yeah, I thought I was just kind of, maybe going a little too deep here. Yeah, but apparently I'm onto something with Conrad. We're on the same level. I love that. Goddamn.
I'll find that article and try to send it to you.
No.
I was like really tired and I was trying to read it and I was like, God damn it. I also should have read it today at some point. I was at work, but I should have found time for it because I think that kind of stuff matters when we're talking about these movies, especially from a cinematography standpoint. If we're going to focus on that, I think this movie is pretty symbolic and has a lot of gems throughout that. If you care, what's great about it is if you don't care, doesn't matter. Still a great movie. But if you do care, it just kind of rewards you for caring. And
yeah,
I know both of us do. So yeah, good shout. I think we're both on the same page with a lot of this movie, just how we feel about it and what's most impressive from it. And having the same deacons makes sense. For me, it was either this scene or it was the scene in the hotel between the accountant McGuire and Hanks, when it's just kind of pandemonium. You're like, God, what's happening? I love stuff like that, especially in broad daylight.
I almost had the scene where Sullivan is sent to kill the bookie or like rough up the bookie who is like late. And there's just like, he reads the letter, he looks up, Sullivan looks at him, they both look at the gun, and there's no lines exchanged, but we all know what's about to happen. Yeah, it's so great. And then I love the big guy who's like, could you put in a good word for me? He's like, sure. Just so good. And then I love the letter, kill Sullivan and all debts are cleared. It's like, oh my God. And then just everything that snowballs from there is just, oh shit.
It's fucking on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I also love that first bank robbery scene where he takes Capone's money and he's like, no, that's for you. He's like, you trust me not to say anything? Always trust a bank manager. I love that. And he just right in the jacket.
So good. I love that like montage of them stealing money. It's really cool. What a movie. What a movie. Oh, this shit is great. It's so great that it was up for 6 awards, which is a pretty good amount, I'll say. I am grateful for that. This is why I think the Oscars can matter. Sometimes recognition for a good movie is cool. It's cool to recognize good art, and I think here we have some stuff to talk about. So we'll go through these 6 categories. We'll start with best sound. I think is probably the one to go with. Okay. It was, I don't want to start. The one that's listed at the bottom is score, but I don't want to do that first. I want to kind of lead up to that Thomas Newman conversation. So we'll do best sound. Let's see here. It's a cool ceremony. As I'm scrolling through, I'm like, man, there's some fun shit here. Like in screenplay, there's like Talk to Her and Y Tu Mama Tambien. Like, wow, fuck, that's awesome.
Cuarón versus Almodovar. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the case. Like I like all 5 of these movies in best sound. The winner was Chicago, Gangs of New York, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Road to Perdition, and Spider-Man. Like, the fuck? That's a fucking sick group. You got Spider-Man and like just this awesome Sam Raimi film that kicks off a lot of great superhero shit, and Road to Perdition, obviously great. Two Towers, which might be the best overall Lord of the Rings movie. Gangs of New York, Martin Scorsese epic, and Chicago, which is obviously the best picture winner, and a movie that is pretty good. It's not my favorite, but I think for best sound, I would have to go Two Towers here, though.
When in doubt, bet on the musical. When it comes to best sound, there's going to be a musical there. Odds are it's going to take it. But
for sure,
I give this one to Spider-Man.
Nothing wrong with that, man. Godspeed.
I'm thinking of like the sound design of the webs and the goblin and, the echoing of Defoe's laughter. Like, there's some incredible sound design in Spider-Man, and I wish that had been recognized.
God, we love that movie. We've talked about all of these movies except for Chicago. Like, at some point, we did a Gangs of New York Filmgazm episode at one point. Of course, Lord of the Rings was our 50th episode here on Oscar Sunday. We did Road to Perdition. We're doing it right now today, and Spider-Man we did on Filmgazm like in December.
Yeah,
So
we did that one in Los Angeles.
yeah, that was loads of fun. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, that's a good group. Good group of movies. Good way to start. Best sound editing. There's only 3 here. Two Towers won. It beat Road to Perdition and Minority Report. I also like Minority Report. I mean, come on.
I have not seen Minority Report. That's one of the few Spielbergs I have not seen. I got to get on that.
Yeah, that's a cool movie. That's a unique Spielberg movie for sure. A forgotten gem. But sound editing, I'll totally go Lord of the Rings on that.
Yeah, I'll second that one. I'm still a little, not too clear on the difference between sound editing and sound mixing and whatever's going on there. But good. Yeah, Two Towers deserved it, sure.
Yeah, you can't really argue with that, Best art direction, another win for Chicago. Beat Frida, Gangs of New York, Two Towers, and Road to Perdition.
Oh man, set design for that is a great group.
Yeah, this is incredible. I think I might actually go Gangs of New York here. Tough. Yeah. This is tough though.
I'm thinking of Helm's Deep. I'm thinking of
Edoras.
I'm like, oh Jesus.
Two Towers.
Then Chicago and Road to Perdition were basically doing the same thing, but Chicago just had a lot more pageantry in terms, but it's both, Depression era Chicago.
Yeah.
Shit, this is a tough one. I haven't seen Frida, so I can't vote on that one. But Gangs of New York, recreating the 5 points, just the gritty, nasty, like deplorable cesspool of New York City in the 1830s or 1850s, 60s. Yeah, because it was like right around the Civil War. So yeah,
correct. Yeah,
I'm gonna give it to Gangs of New York.
Just the way when everybody's kind of walking like in the courtyards, it's like, this is incredible. It's like a carnival of all these amazing costumes and props, and fucking A, that movie. It's not my favorite Scorsese by any stretch of the imagination, but I respect the hell out of it. And it's got Daniel Day just doing his thing.
It's fucking up there for me. It's probably, I think it's got to be top 5 Gangs of New York. I think we did a top 5 Scorsese.
I think you had it like 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. It's in there. Yeah. I want to make sure the continuity is all solid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with Scorsese, it's okay if it changes. It's Martin Scorsese. That's fine.
That one's pretty set in stone, though. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I remember when we did that. Why did we do that movie?
That was a bonus for something.
Did we do something from 2002 and we were like, let's just go to I don't know.
Was it Leo? Was it Daniel Day-Lewis? Was it Scorsese? Like where did that come from? Here, I'm gonna you continue. I'm gonna
okay. It's great. I really can't remember for the life of me why we did that. Next one would be best original score. Frida won. Catch Me If You Can, very underrated score from John Williams. Far From Heaven, Elmer Bernstein, Jesus Christ. The Hours, Philip Glass, and Road to Perdition, Thomas Newman. I've seen all of these except for Far From Heaven. I know Far From Heaven is like right up my alley. I need to see that movie. But
Shutter Island. That's why.
That makes sense. Scorsese and Leo. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. That's an awesome double feature. My vote is Road to Perdition. I'm saying I'm with you. I haven't seen Far From Heaven, but yeah, it's hard to imagine any competition for maybe Thomas Newman's best work. So
yeah. Of this bunch, I've only seen Road to Perdition and Catch Me If You Can, so I can't judge the other ones. But like I said, the score for Road to Perdition is like it belongs in a fucking museum. It is beautiful. So he deserved that win. He's never won. I can't believe that.
It's fucking stupid. Yeah. They better not let that happen. Like, never win. I don't care if it's a fucking career award at this point. It's like, it's Thomas Newman. I understand if it's a career award.
Yeah, I can't believe Elliot Goldenthal did the Batman and Robin music. So right there, I'm like, you don't deserve an Oscar. I don't care what else you do. You don't deserve one. I'm sorry.
Totally okay with that. Yeah, that's always a fun group to look at a score. We both love that shit. This is good though. This is a group. I would love to see these five guys in a movie, maybe a like gambling movie of some sort from 2002. Best supporting actor: Chris Cooper won for adaptation. Ed Harris for The Hours. Paul Newman for Road to Perdition. John C. fucking Reilly for Chicago. And Christopher Walken for Catch Me If You Can.
Jesus Christ. Oh, man. That supporting actor. That's where it's my favorite category. It's when character actors get to shine.
Yeah, the weirdos. The weirdos get to hang out. I mean, I'd probably vote Paul Newman, but man, Chris Cooper is damn good in adaptation. This one's tough. This one's really tough. I've always been a big Ed Harris guy, and of course, John C. Reilly is like a hero. And Christopher Walken is Walken. He's got one of the most fascinating careers ever. So this is a heads up. This is kind of like I really wouldn't mind any of them winning.
I haven't seen The Hours, so I can't go Ed Harris here. I do think Walken is kind of underwhelming in Catch Me If You Can. I don't think
that's fair compared to his other work. Yeah,
compared to his other work, I think that should have. If we're gonna go Catch Me If You Can, I think that should have been Hanks.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, as far as the win goes, I do love Chris Cooper in adaptation, but I am gonna go Paul Newman as well.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Paul Newman is putting in the most memorable performance of all those. One that will last forever. So, yeah, that's a cool group though, man. I would love those five guys in the same movie. Would be awesome.
I do love that John C. Reilly has a nomination. That's just great, and he is great in Chicago. Oh man, I'm thinking of like who. Is there anybody you think should be here?
2002. I mean, I might be crazy, but Philip Seymour Hoffman in Punch Drunk Love is one of my favorite things ever.
You're not crazy.
I'm trying to think if Two Towers has somebody that kind of stands out from a supporting.
Andy Serkis, my friend. Andy Serkis.
Oh yeah, Gollum. Yeah, that's like Andy Serkis in specifically the Two Towers might be the best performance of all three movies. Yeah. I mean, good God. Yeah, that's a good call. Trying to think 2002. What other movies do I like from that year? You can't really go, Daniel Day is obviously up for best actor, and you can't really go Leo. They're both kind of best lead actor worthy in that movie.
From Gangs,
yeah, that's tough.
From Gangs in New York, I would nominate Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Crazy.
I really like Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. That's an underrated 2002 movie.
Nice.
But I don't know if I'd say, I don't know. I've always thought that movie just as a whole is just really impressive. I
always find it funny that almost the entire cast of Chicago is up except for Richard Gere.
Yeah.
I always find that funny. Like, I don't think I have a beef with Richard Gere, at least not today. But I just found that.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious. Yeah.
Anybody from Road to Perdition you think should have, like, Jude Law maybe?
Yeah, if anybody, Jude Law. He's got some cool stuff to chew on with this movie, and as much as I love Stanley Tucci and Daniel Craig, I think Jude Law would be the best shout out.
Yeah. Goddamn.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm sure when we get done with this, I'm gonna look at my letterbox and be like, oh yeah, this guy. That's how it goes. But yeah, my initial instinct, because my favorite movie from that year is Punch Drunk Love, and PSH. I mean, there's a couple of scenes where you're like, nobody else can do this, and that sometimes is a good sign. Here we go for the win. Road to Perdition, cinematography. Conrad Hall. I feel lucky to be talking about him as much as we have on this episode. He beat Dion Beebe for Chicago, Edward Lockman for Far From Heaven, Michael Ballhaus for Gangs of New York, good looking movie, and Pavel Edelman for The Pianist. Pianist is not really a conversation I want to have. this ceremony is famous for reasons I don't really care to get into. But the movie looks pretty cool, but I don't think there's any chance any of these movies are taking it away from Conrad for Road to Perdition. It's just like light years ahead with how well it's aged and how good it looks.
Yeah, I second that. It looks amazing. I love that he was not just, filming the movie, but also kind of helping shape the movie. I love that. You don't see that a lot. And I think his work speaks for itself. It's an amazing accomplishment and a hell of a swan song for a lifelong filmmaker.
Yeah, for real. Like what a way to go out on just like maybe with their best stuff. So good shit. The last two categories I want to talk about just for fun, because I think Road to Perdition should be in both.
Okay.
Best actor. Adrien Brody won. He's, I believe, to this day, the youngest guy to win that award for best actor. Maybe, yeah, he's got to be because he was like 20 something, like 25, 26.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage for adaptation. No way he's getting cut out. Michael Caine for The Quiet American. I have not seen that movie, regrettably. Daniel Day-Lewis for Gangs of New York. No way in hell he's being taken out. And Jack Nicholson for About Schmidt. I like About Schmidt, but come on. Jack Nicholson has a lot better stuff. He's got like 12 nominations altogether. So this is just one of those other ones. But I would take out probably Nicholson for Tom Hanks, because I haven't seen The Quiet American, so I can't say. I'm not taking DDL out. I'm not taking Cage out, and I'm probably not going to take Brody out. He did some amazing stuff physically for that movie. So yeah, but Hanks needs to be there.
Yeah, he does. He does need to be there. I'm gonna, I'm comfortable taking Michael Caine out because I've seen both of his wins now, and I was not impressed either time. So I think they're picking some weird stuff for him. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit him out. He's gonna sit on the sidelines while the rest of us play recess.
Yeah, the Quiet American. I'm just so curious about that one. So curious because it's Michael Caine and Brendan Fraser. I'm like, I need to see this movie. Like what's going on in that one? But I'm with you. And Hannah and her sisters. He's fine. He's not bad or anything, but it's not like, oh my god, this guy should win. And the fucking I don't even want to talk about it. What's the other stupid one?
Cider House Rules.
Yeah, Cider House Rules from '99. Just no way, no thanks. That one has one of the worst wins I've ever seen from a performance standpoint. I love Michael Caine, so I'm not. It's no shade to him. He's got better stuff. True. But so if Hanks is there, does Brody still win, or is this DDL's?
I really, dude, you're right that Adrien Brody really went to a unique physical place for The Pianist. But does that deserve praise? Like, is that just being fucking crazy? I mean, he broke off like a long time relationship for that. Like, at what point is it just psychosis? But then again, we got Daniel Day-Lewis over here. So the king of losing his fucking mind in a performance.
Yeah, I for me it's DDL, and honestly second place is Nicolas Cage because he's playing two fuckers at once.
Two distinct fuckers.
Yeah. One like very annoying fucker, and one guy who's completely lost. Yeah, but DDL, like I'm a huge fan of the history of this stuff, and I love thinking about legacy and like what it means to just rack up Oscars, because I do think it means something, at least in my mind. And yeah, especially if they're worthwhile performances. And it would be so cool if he had 4, because he'd be the only male with 4. And they would be for My Left Foot, Gangs of New York, There'll Be Blood, and Lincoln. Like, I really wish he had a 4th just to be like, I am the best. There's no debating it. Because there's, Jack Nicholson has 3 as well. And, Denzel Washington has 2 on like 10 nominations. While Daniel Day-Lewis has 3 on 6. So if he had 4 on 6, he'd be like Michael Jordan. He'd be like, when I go, I win. When I show up, I win. And I would love that. I would love that for him. And I do think for me, it's my second favorite performance of his whole career. So it's There Will Be Blood, and then it's Gangs. Without DDL, that movie does not work for me. Like, Gangs, I like it a lot, but he is why. Like Bill the Butcher is why I think about that movie, why I quote it. I'm not quoting Cameron Diaz or Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm quoting Daniel Day-Lewis.
That movie is quite aimless without him. He really does elevate that thing to a 9 for me. Like without him, it's a good movie, but he makes that thing rewatchable, because it's almost 3 hours long. Like you need somebody to keep your interest. And Leo's doing a decent like Irish accent, but Cameron Diaz does not belong there, and every other actor is like barely in it. Like he's our villain, he's our through line, and he's amazing. And I've been on, for this category, particularly at this Oscars, I have been Daniel Day-Lewis like almost my whole life. And then I saw Adaptation. And I'm going to give this to Nicolas Cage.
You're going to get no argument here. That you could make an argument that he should have 2 wins for Leaving Las Vegas and Adaptation. Cage is scary good in Adaptation. That movie is the definition of underrated. I love that movie. Should have been up for Best Picture. It's one of the most like unique films from this year.
It's such a hard film to pitch to anybody who's never seen it.
Yeah.
And
I don't even say anything. I'm like, you'll find it. It'll come to you. Yeah.
But also, like, I feel like people these days, particularly our generation, they don't know that Cage. They don't know award Cage. They don't know Oscar Cage. They know crazy fucking Ghost Rider Cage, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Not that he ever went anywhere.
Yeah. No, he's still here mixing it up.
But Charlie and Donald Kaufman is such a great performance. It's, playing both of these very distinct characters, both with their own weird neurotic issues, and just selling it. Selling, despair and hope and excitement and just weird unrequited love. It's such a crazy role, and I was blown away by his ability to do that. I didn't know he could do that. And we're only now just getting more of that Cage, and I'm so happy that we're getting a resurgence. But it'd be great if he had 2 Oscars to brag about. He could just like scream on a mountaintop holding one in each hand.
I'm Nicky Cage, 2-time Oscar winner. Yeah. So I think it's a battle between Cage and Daniel Day, which I thought I'd never say.
God, what a film that would be. Those 2 guys going head to head, like a buddy cop movie or something.
Oh, geez, please.
I really wish Daniel Day-Lewis slummed it a little bit. I want to see him in some like shitty comedies or something, because I know he would still give it his all every time.
Yeah.
I just want to see that. Like, I want to see him as like Dr. Doom or some shit. Like, I really want him to just have this moment of like, fuck it, I'll do anything.
Oh, Christ almighty. That would be the day. That would be the day. Oh man, he's just great. Both, for different reasons. I love them both. So if we're taking Road to Perdition to Best Picture, what are we taking out?
Oh boy, I think, you know what? I know it's, for the wrong reasons, but we got to get rid of The Pianist.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The Pianist, can see you later, and The Hours, see you later, Adaptation, and Road to Perdition, and would make this group very, very strong. Yeah,
I agree with you there. I got to see The Hours. I'm sure.
I like The Hours because it's got 3 women that I adore. That are to me some of the best to ever do it. But it's not a movie I'm like thinking about all the time, like I am for Road to Perdition or Adaptation, or these movies that have aged really well over time and still are relevant to pop culture, like The Two Towers or Gangs of New York or Chicago. So I think this group could be amazing, and it's good. It's a good group, but they could have done something really special. So Road to Perdition, man, it deserved about probably 8 or 9 nominations, not just 6.
Yeah, this should be one of the most celebrated gangster films of all time. I don't know why it isn't.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, we got to right here, so that was fun. It was fun to give it the praise it deserves. And this train keeps rolling because next week we're doing some amazing stuff. 59th Academy Awards. 1986 Best Picture Showdown, Platoon. I can't wait to do this movie because you haven't seen it and I know you're going to love it. And you've been waiting for this moment to do it on the show. You know, you've known for a couple of years that it's going to be coming and it's finally here. It felt right. It's time to stop beating around the bush. Let's do this. We've both watched a couple movies from the ceremony. We both watched Hannah and Her Sisters already. I watched A Room with a View. You watched Children of a Lesser God. So we're both kind of doing our homework, and by next week we'll have watched them all and we're going to rank them. So it's going to be a blast. I can't wait. I love doing these so much. I love doing Road to Perdition just as much though. You know, these kind of niche movies that we both adore, that we're both obsessed with, and we can talk about for literally 2 hours. I love doing both, but the showdowns are like what it's all about. You know, they kind of, they allow us to do homework without it being work, you know? And it's so rewarding to once a month, basically come to this gathering of me and Connor, just kind of talking about a group of films, ranking them and what they mean to pop culture today. And that's gonna be really cool because 1986 is a year we're both familiar with, but not with the Best Picture group. We're both kind of watching some of these movies for the first time. And that's always kind of cool to knock movies off, not knocking them off the list. So I can't wait to be back here next week. But holy shit, on Filmgazm this week, episode 196, we're getting very close to 200, which is just so crazy. We're doing some absolute heaters leading up to 200. So on Wednesday, we will be covering The Terminator. Jesus Christ. big time movie. It opens the gates to do Terminator 2, hopefully on this show, to do T2. That would be a lot of fun, but you know, somehow we haven't talked about those movies on a show yet. And so it's time. And then on Friday, Beyond the Bad, be covering Masters of the Universe. God damn it. I haven't thought about that movie in a long time. So we've got a crazy week. Terminator, Masters of the Universe, and Platoon. Like, come on. What more can you want?
80s week.
Like, yeah. 80s without
80s
even trying. Yeah. Yeah. Without even trying to connect them. You know, this is just what we do. These shows somehow have like formed this life together, and it's been so much fun to be a part of. And we're not going to stop. You know, we're going to keep this train rolling through the summer. We're doing a lot of cool stuff in the summer and trying to have as much fun as we possibly can. So thank you guys for listening. Road to Perdition, again, it's on Netflix, Prime, and Paramount Plus. So go check it out. Go rewatch it and have some fun. You know, remember these guys. You know, remember Conrad Hall. Remember Sam Mendes, Thomas Newman, Tom Hanks, Paul Newman. These guys are the shit, and I know we both think so. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all these different things at Filmgazm. Always, we don't really play around. We're always Filmgazm. You know, that's our name. And check out our website for reviews that are coming out pretty much every day, because Connor's watching a lot of movies right now. He's officially, you know, in summer mode, it feels like. So just keep checking out our stuff. Connor, you got anything else?
No, I want people to go see. I want people to watch this movie. So yeah, keep plugging that. Netflix, Prime, Paramount Plus. Watch Road to Perdition. It is worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it. Keep this movie alive and well, for sure. It is, like Connor said, one of the best overall gangster films of all time. So yeah, check that shit out. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday for fucking Terminator.